I think the human body acts as like a transducer, music word,
Mm-hmm.
for energy. So,
Yeah.
there's energy coming in, there's energy going out, and I feel like my role is to take the energy that's coming in and turn it into a different kind of energy, hopefully a more positive energy
Right.
to send it back out. And then ultimately, when I leave the earth, leaving my energy cleaner than I found it, leaving it a little bit more loving.
You're now listening to the Let's Talk About Life podcast, brought to you by Don't Settle, with your host, Harrison King. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Let's Talk About Life podcast. My name's Harrison King, and we got a special guest today. We got someone I know, and I'm gonna be honest. We haven't talked very much. Really, I don't know if we've ever talked face to face, but that's why I want to do it here, because she's an incredible person, and just always I can see sharing stuff about big, larger than life kind of topics, and that's what this is all about. So, Savannah Shea, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. That's very sweet. It's true. I didn't totally realize that we haven't ever sat down and had a conversation before. But yeah, my name's Savannah Shea. We met at Humber. I'm going into my 4th year studying voice at Humber College in Toronto.
Great singer, by the way. Great singer.
Thank you. Beyond that, I'm a painter. I've got obviously some art behind me. I like to be creative in all directions, and that's very fun. It makes it hard to focus on one thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And definitely this is the kind of conversation that I love to have. I usually within the first 3 minutes about meeting somebody, I'll be like, so, what do you think about the universe? Like aliens, ghosts,
Nice.
God, like where are you? Just
Yep.
hit me up with the, I just think it's so fun to talk about stuff that we could possibly never know. And it's like,
For sure.
it's very exciting. So
That's
I don't have my COVID has just totally deconstructed my identity. So when you ask me to introduce myself, I'm like,
I don't know who I am anymore.
Yeah. Which I'm honestly grateful for. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. What do we want to talk, man? There's so many things. You've got, like you said, what if we're just whatting here. So what's the first thing that comes to mind? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, you talked about how the stuff I talk about on social media just before we started there, and I like to speak about my unique experiences as much as possible because I think even though they feel very unique to me, there's definitely lots of other people
for sure
experiencing them.
Yeah.
And for me, so much of growing up was about shame and overcoming shame and figuring out what role shame played in my life. So one of those things, a lot of that is body positivity stuff. But one of the more niche things specifically is I have a disorder or condition, whatever you want to call it. It's called trichotillomania.
Holy, that's a mouthful.
It's such an ugly name.
One more time, slowly. Let's get it.
Yeah. Trichotillomania.
All right.
So trich being the Latin for hair, and then mania, lots of disorders have that as the suffix. And there's another side of that, which is dermatillomania, which is the same condition but with skin.
Okay.
And they're all under this umbrella of BFRB. So I'm just jumping into this. Do you want to start?
No, let's do it. Yeah.
Great. Love it. This is something that I'm a unique expert on. So, so BFRBs are body-focused repetitive behaviors. And a lot of people consider them under the umbrella of mental disorders or mental conditions, but they're actually genetic. It's actually a genetic condition. So you can see it in animals and evidence of over-grooming behaviors. And so basically what the disorder is for me and how it manifests for me is hair pulling.
Okay.
I pull my eyebrows. I have my eyebrows tattooed on.
Yeah.
They look fleek every single day.
Just have to worry about them.
Yeah, it's fun. But obviously, as a young woman growing up in the age of eyebrows, having no eyebrows is a real big source of shame.
For sure.
A couple years ago, I started talking about that on social media. And the first time I ever posted about it, I was so afraid. I mean, I think this is the same story for anyone sharing things they're vulnerable about.
Yeah, for sure.
But I was so afraid. And then every time I talk about it, people message me saying, I deal with this as well. And something that really helped me is I met one of my best friends in the world. Her name's Ellen, and she shares this condition with me. And so we
Oh,
got
okay.
to like bond over it. And
Mm.
yeah, so that's one unique thing about me. I don't know if you have any questions.
No, I mean, yeah, I honestly, I've never heard. I know there's all kinds of different conditions and stuff. Never
Hmm.
heard of that specific one. So, you're saying it's often classified as like a mental thing,
Yeah, like
right?
people try to treat it under the umbrella of mental,
Would you say it
like
is?
I actually don't think it is. And I did some group therapy on it. Like, so yeah, I guess when I say as a like a mental health problem,
Yeah.
people try to treat it with like therapy and the same things they would try to treat anxiety, depression with. But actually, when I did the group session on it, the leader talked about how because it's a genetic condition, you can take some of the pressure off. Like it's something you have in your
Right.
genes.
Yeah.
And and I think in the same way, I don't pretend to be an expert on all mental health, but
Yeah,
obviously
for
mental
sure.
health has genetic influences as
Right.
well.
Right.
But this one seems to be a little bit more strictly from the genes. Like I can
Right.
see it in my family.
Hmm.
My brother has it as well. My
Okay.
parents have like signs of it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that honestly, when I heard that, it took a lot of the pressure off because I
Oh,
was
for
like,
sure.
oh, I don't have to try to
Right.
use the power of my like I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I was like, you know, I yeah, I don't want to say that other mental health challenges aren't genetic. Like that wasn't kind of
Yeah.
what I was trying to
For
imply,
sure.
but definitely, yeah, definitely knowing that it's something that I will have
Yeah.
and it's not going away,
Right.
and just like deciding to accept that was a big part of the processing
For
for me.
sure. So yeah, let's get into this. I know you said you're pretty open about chatting about it. Can you just
Absolutely.
explain a little bit more in detail, like what you've had to deal with and kind of
Hmm.
what is it, for people that, and even me, like I don't know really much about
For
it. So
sure. Yeah. I'm actually very excited to talk about it because I feel like it's people get like sensitive about it and they don't want to be
right,
rude or whatever, but we're
yeah,
like in this space where we've decided to talk about it, and I think that's great. And
that's awesome.
if someone out there has a friend who is experiencing, don't just like go in with the questions. It took me a
Yes,
long
yeah,
time to get to this point of
for
being
sure,
really comfortable
100%.
with it.
Yeah,
But so it manifested for me in grade 11. I was doing a musical and every day I had my makeup done, and
yeah,
the only reason I noticed it was happening is because I started pulling out my eyebrows, and my makeup artist was like, "Oh, should I fill in your eyebrows for the show?" And I was kind of like, "I guess so. I don't know why I'm doing this, blah blah
huh.
blah." And I would say between that first, I mean, that's like the first sort of serious incident of it. I can look back in my childhood and see like nail biting and like,
Okay,
other
yeah,
small signs of over grooming behaviors.
right,
But that was the first like one that affected me aesthetically, which ended
yes,
up being such a big part of the challenge of it was the aesthetic effect.
right,
And then yeah, between that point there was probably like I would say 2 years of not knowing what it was, not knowing that this was a common thing, that there was a disorder name for it.
yeah,
And I was just like sort of like, I don't know. And then my parents also not knowing and them started saying like, why are you doing that? Stop doing that. And I was like, that's
right,
extremely unhelpful. I don't know. Like
yeah.
I
Thank
can't.
you.
I was like, of course I would stop if I could, but I absolutely can't. Um, and so yeah, just like, I mean, really, really small things of like, there was at some point there was a transition where I like started wearing more makeup and like drawing my eyebrows on. And then
Right.
there was like other transitions where it went from eyebrows to eyelashes, and then I had to like deal with that in a different way.
Mm,
And at every stage it was like, oh, I'm so weird. This is such a weird thing I'm doing. How do
right.
I yeah, it just felt like an outlier of because everyone around me was not doing that.
Well, yeah, and it
Um
seems like it's your choice, but it's not, right? But you didn't know
for
that at the
sure.
time.
Yeah, it's extremely compulsive.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely like tied to stress in a lot of ways and
Mhm.
has some sort of cyclical effects because it is a stressful thing to be doing. So then it causes more stress and it
Yeah, for
can kind
sure.
of cycle. And yeah, I think like it's not necessarily about pinpointing one thing that triggered it, but
Yeah.
lots of stress. And like I've written quite a bit of poetry about it, but
Yeah.
like a lot of the things, there's like life things that are affected by it that like people probably wouldn't think about. So
Mm.
like for a long time I didn't have my eyebrows tattooed on, and I like wouldn't go swimming in the summer, and I'm like an extremely outdoorsy person and
Yeah.
loved to be in nature, and
Yeah.
so that felt like something that was taken away from me, and I wouldn't, like sleepovers were hard, and
Mm.
when I moved out of home I like wouldn't let my roommates see me without makeup on. I couldn't
Oh,
go to school, like I couldn't leave the house without makeup
right.
on. It
Right,
was
right,
like
right.
this armor.
Yeah.
um and the fear of that was like, if people see me without my makeup, like they won't accept me.
Right.
I won't be beautiful like conventionally, and
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
needed
Yeah.
that. Like I was like, I feel like a lot of people hold on to that because
For
it's
sure.
we're taught that it's extremely
Yeah.
important. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of like little things. And then the other thing is people noticing and saying, what's up with your face? And like kids, especially, like kids are
Right.
brutal.
Yeah.
And I worked at a summer camp, and so I would be like, why don't you have eyebrows? Or like, what's up with your eyebrows?
Right.
And now when I interact with children, I'm like, I get to paint my eyebrows on every day. I don't have night, like I have a whole dialogue that's really positive and it doesn't
Right.
feel as bad. But before, when I hadn't worked through it, it was extremely
So how
hard.
did you get to that point? Because here's the interesting thing. I was just talking with somebody right
Hmm.
earlier and said we were doing this, and I was
Hmm.
excited about it, and they were like, "You got to talk about like self love," because they
Oh
said
yeah.
this Savannah's like the queen of self love in their eyes, and I was
Oh, that's
like,
so nice.
you know, which is incredible to say, and I would agree. Again, I've only seen your stuff, your posts, and things like that, but I have not really met anybody or seen anybody do stuff like that, and be so self confident, or at least try to create that community. And how did you? Obviously, you weren't there a long time ago,
No.
right? How did
Yeah.
you? How did you get to this point?
Oh, I really appreciate that sweet person thinking that, and you passing it on. It's very nice. I think um like maybe I'll give you a short answer and a long answer. The short
Yep.
answer would be um that me sharing self-love with the world was like an easy way of doing that action.
Mm,
It's an easy expression of self-love to post a picture. For me, I mean, I know posting's not easy for everyone. I was already posting a lot anyway, and for me to say like, down down with the system, and like I'm going to love myself, and just post a picture and then share that
yeah.
was an easy way to express the self-love, and then also in a weird way get a bit of validation back. So that was like a
Right.
bit of a cycle of, look, I love
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah. Yeah.
and get the validation. The longer answer I think would be, that's actually, I mean, it happened extremely slowly and it's not over. Like it's very,
Yeah.
you know, um I think the self-love that I'm capable of is limited to myself at the
Right.
moment. So I'm very
Yeah.
good at being alone
Hmm.
and like deciding that my body is acceptable and beautiful, and deciding
Yeah.
that like I don't have to look a certain way or have eyebrows or whatever to be acceptable to other people. Like it doesn't
Right.
have, you know what I mean?
You don't have to fit a
Um
mold or whatever.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think because I was extremely insecure all through, not I wouldn't say even extremely insecure, but I had uh I definitely was insecure.
Hmm.
I built a lot of skills for myself. So I
Right.
like, I became a musician and like did theater, and like I just had a lot going on, and the person that I was not defined entirely by how I looked, and obviously my parents like taught that to me and stuff as well.
Yeah.
But I guess the more advanced step is not pushing the dialogue away. So
Right.
when there's a dialogue that's really negative, not saying like, I'm going to ignore this, like it'll go away. It's like sitting with it and being like, writing it down and being like, that's ridiculous. Telling someone, oh, this is a thought that I've had about myself. And then saying, like your friend being like, I would never say that to you, or realizing you would never say the things to your friends that you're
Yeah.
saying to yourself. Like it's sort of looking at it head on. I don't know if this is like there's a concept of like when something's frightening, you go towards it and then it becomes less frightening because you get to understand
Right.
it more.
Which is
So
oftentimes not what people tend.
no.
We don't want to do, right? It's something scary, and whatever it is. I mean, even like, yeah, just you're gonna grow from something if you approach that, or what I like to say is that if you're scared of something, it's outside your comfort zone. You push that, you get outside, you just slowly build what's more comfortable, right? And then you're able to do
Hmm.
bigger things. So approaching something like that, that's a interesting topic, because I was chatting with somebody about that recently,
Hmm.
about like you said, you write down what you've been saying to yourself, and you're like, would you ever say that to somebody else? Or if
Yeah.
somebody else was saying that to you, or like to another person, would you like be like, hey,
Yeah. Defend
stop?
them. Or if
Right?
someone says any of that stuff to me, I would just be like, bye, you're a bad friend. Like, I
Yeah.
don't need you in my life.
Why do you think it's okay we let ourselves do that though?
um, well, I mean, I don't know. It's not okay. I think it's just like habitual, I think,
Yeah.
uh, I think, uh, capitalism has a lot to do with it. I
I
think
was
the way
just
that
gonna
we're,
get into like the society, the whole.
yeah, like I think we're cultured uh to buy beautiful, and like that is,
Yeah.
the beauty industry is a ridiculously profitable, right? So
Yeah.
the fact that they don't consider the well-being of people when they're trying to sell
No.
products, right?
No.
Um, I think it's conditioning. My friend Ellen, who I mentioned earlier, once said something really great to me, which was like, who we are isn't our first thought. It's like how we react to our first thought, or like the
Yep.
second thought we have. And
Yep.
yeah, the first thought is what we've conditioned to be. The
Yep.
second thought is who we are.
Yeah.
So like, when I have these cyclical thoughts, like I'll go, oh, like one of them was like, because you don't have eyebrows, you won't be able to find love. I say it out loud and it's like, I could laugh because it's just a very silly thing to say.
Right. But it's a legitimate feeling that you
For
were
sure.
having. Yeah, for sure.
For sure. But, say that out loud. And for a long time, that was the only thought. That was just like the baseline level of thought.
Hmm.
And then after like some therapy, after like going outside without makeup on and seeing that nothing happened and it was fine, like I was okay, I
Yeah.
survived it, after confronting some of those challenges, the second thought that came, like that first thought would still come because that's how I've been conditioned. But the second thought would come and that thought would be, well, that's not true because your family loves you, your
Right.
friends love you, you already
Yeah.
have love.
Hmm.
And like, what are you saying about other people that don't have eyebrows? Does that mean they don't deserve love either? Then I'm like, of course not. Like, of course they do. Right. So
Yeah.
it's just like the reframe is sort of what I've learned as like a coping skill, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. The what I was gonna say about like society and stuff, lots of what you were feeling, I would assume, is because of what you're outwardly being shown or taught growing
Mm-hmm.
up,
Mm-hmm.
especially our generation with the internet and social media and stuff,
Yeah,
right? Um, and I don't know if it's a different reason if you want to talk about it, but I noticed that you're not on social media at the moment.
I am not.
Um,
Yeah.
and well, we can get into that in a second. But
Mm-hmm.
growing up, did you feel like you obviously felt that pressure from outside things? What I know you don't have the answer, but I just want to talk about it. Like what can we do to start to change? That
Mm-hmm.
society's going. This is what's you're supposed to look like. This is what's beautiful. This is what is the
Mm-hmm.
mold you're supposed to fit or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. I think I mean already so much has changed from like when I was in grade 11
Yeah.
to now. Um, you know, Obviously, I would say, like, I think this is across the board. People think this to be true, whether they do it or not. Is like, just don't let really young people on the internet.
Yeah.
Like, like if I was 8 or 9 or 10 and had been on social media, that would have like it does the damage so much earlier, and it's way
Right.
harder to adjust and grow and
Yeah.
find yourself after that. I think obviously curating what you're seeing to match how you want to feel. Like there was a long period of time where I had a really unhealthy sort of like dieting physical exercise culture and I was following a
Mm.
lot of like athletes and women who had extreme dieting habits and that kind of thing
Right.
and all of course all they're posting is their success stories and so and then I just like had a day where I was like, oh, this makes me so sad and I just unfollowed everybody and then
Yeah.
in terms of it's obviously everyone's challenges are relative. So in
Mm.
some ways mine feels quite small compared to what other people go through. Uh, but I would see people with like way more extreme versions of beauty showing themselves and being proud of it. And like, obviously like the explosion of like LGBTQ plus culture
Yeah.
has given everybody like I'm so grateful because I feel like it's given everybody permission to be more themselves, like all of these
Right.
people that have been so like outwardly
Yeah.
brave to just
Yeah.
be who they want to be. And like, whether you're a part of that culture or not, it's just like, oh, that was a really good like leading force into
Yeah.
saying like, oh, you can. And I mean, like, it's funny because, the difference between what happens to someone who like, the discrimination that a drag queen would face versus like me, who I only paint on my eyebrows or whatever.
Right.
Like, it's a very small version of it. But I don't know. There's a lot of models that you can choose to follow. So it's about like choosing to follow
I like how you're
things.
saying that you're curating like your feed, and I've done that recently. Again,
Hmm.
when we get to this, I guess I don't
Yeah,
have social media.
you're
I
gone.
have it all, but I'm not. It's not on my phone,
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm not actually looking at it. And because one of the reasons I did that was because I was seeing stuff, and I was like, this is not what I want to be seeing.
Hmm.
Like, right? It's not the stuff. It doesn't put me in it. Like same thing. It's like, oh, this doesn't put me in the right headspace. So what I've
Hmm.
done when I do look at it, like I've tried to curate to what do I want to look at? Like what do I want to
Right.
help me grow and stuff. So it's all these different kind of personal growth type things. For me, it is that health and wellness type stuff. But
Hmm.
that's what I want to see. So and that's I don't know why that's not a common thing. Like that's just not that's what it should be, right? That's what social media
Yeah.
should be. But it's like, no, we feel obligated to follow certain people or do certain things, which is which has been a big thing. So that curating, what you're looking at
Mhm.
is a big thing.
And it almost happens unconsciously, like, you just kind of meander through and follow
Yeah.
people, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, your whole feed is, like, nothing you care about. It's
Right.
like so, yeah, I think making that active choice along the way. I don't know if you watched The Social Dilemma on
I haven't watched it
Netflix.
yet. My parents just started it. I got to watch it.
Yeah, it's, extremely sad.
I know. I'm sure.
Like, you already know you can predict, the horrors of what's coming
Right.
in watching that, but,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think, like, the reasons and I've done different versions of not being on social media and it's hard because when you talk about me sharing stuff, like it was there's a lot of positives of it and like the
Hmm.
platform as an opportunity to connect with people and talk about things that are important to me and hopefully
Yeah.
like reach people that need to hear something that they didn't
Right.
know about. Like that's the great side of it. And sharing music, I love to share my music. But I was like, cost benefit, like weigh the scales. Is it really gonna make you that much happier if like every second of the day you're thinking, "Oh, I should post this. What am I gonna
Yeah.
post today? Did I look at?" It's hard because there's no best way to do it, especially now. I don't know what's going on in the world. Like I don't know
I know.
what my friends are doing. I don't.
Yeah.
There's no other way to get into that world, so I just kind of
Hmm.
have to lonely wander through.
Yeah.
But my brain has to be the priority, I think.
Yeah. No, for sure. Do you think if you grew up in a time, similar experiences for yourself, but you grew up in a time where social media and the internet wasn't a thing, do you think your kind of where you're at right now, would it have happened earlier and you wouldn't have had as much negativity because of the outward kind of stimulus?
I would actually say the opposite. I think I would
Yeah.
have felt more isolated. Um, I think if I had been living without the ability to like Google things and
Oh yeah. Okay.
social
Fair.
media, like
Yeah.
like I'm sort of thinking that pre our current state of the
Right.
internet,
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't have done that research on my own to figure out what was going on with me.
True.
And I like wouldn't have been able and I would have been too insecure to sit down with my mother and be like, "Mom, help me
Talk to
figure," you know
somebody
what I
about it. Yeah. Yeah.
mean?
For sure.
So I think I would have felt more isolated. Um, but in the same breath, it's like, what the pressure of it's very hard because I think I'm just old enough. I'm 25, and I think I'm just old enough that I escaped the worst of it. Like I really
Yeah.
truly feel like that.
Yeah.
Um, and and the like culture of filters and editing and all that didn't really hit
Mhm.
until after I was in it. And so I kind of look at it like from the outside as an observer, and I'm like, oh,
Right.
like look at what's happening. But then I can also see how it's affecting. If that makes sense, like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
in it,
For
but I
sure.
also am outside of it. I don't
Yeah.
feel like I'm totally indoctrinated.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think? Like, how do you relate? What is your like? I don't know. I guess I don't know what I'm trying to ask, but like, do you feel like it makes you more insecure to be on social media? Like, where are you're obviously, you seem
Yeah.
like a very secure person, but
It
also,
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
It
know.
depends. It depends on what. Well, first of all, obviously, it depends on what's going on in my
Mhm.
personal life and things like that. Um, but the challenge has been recently, which I've talked to some people about, and is because of all this, COVID situation.
Mhm.
Um, I've been feeling, and I know a lot of people have, pretty lost, and like, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, where's the
Mhm.
handbook for the COVID
Oh my gosh.
quarantine? Like, what am I
Yeah.
supposed to be doing? And especially because I'm taking a year off of school, right?
Mhm.
And it's not like I'm, done school so I can pursue life. Well, you know what I mean, like career wise.
Mhm.
And there's not really, I don't, what am I supposed to be doing? So why I'm saying that is because on social media, I'm watching people and like you said, people post their good stuff on social
Mhm.
media. So everybody's trying to create content and post things. And I'm like, that's what I do normally, right? Like I love to do that, but I'm like, I don't have any motivation to do that right now, for like music stuff. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, I'm failing because I'm supposed to be doing this. Everybody else is showing and nobody else is sharing that they're having a hard time. Look at them. They're just creating
Mhm.
stuff. So am I in the wrong? You know what I mean? So it depends. It depends on kind of what's going on, obviously, but, um, it's been a challenge because like I said, it's just so, it depends on the people, but
Mhm.
overall, not very authentic, right? And as to what's going on. And someone like you, is, like you are sharing things that are authentically happening and you're trying to be open about that. But as an
Mhm.
overall whole, it's not that. And that's what I find challenging because I'm, big on, I want to see both sides. I want to see
Mhm.
you doing all these amazing things, jumping out of a plane, but I want to see you sharing that, things have been tough, whatever, blah, blah, you know what I mean?
Mhm. For sure.
And that's what I find tough about social media, because it's not authentic. It's like, I know people like, and I know personally people that are having a really tough time.
Mhm.
But if you go on their Instagram, it looks like they're just having the time of their life.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying
For
it's anybody's
sure.
fault. That's how we've kind of it's become. But I
Mhm.
find it hard to get up. Always, obviously, like always a positive experience out of it because of that.
For sure.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I would yeah, I mean, another thing for me that, like, sort of adjusted the way I see social media, sorry about that, I mean, obviously, like, the emergence of the Black Lives Matter movement had, like, a
right,
big impact on how people were interacting on social media in, like, a
yeah,
lot of, positive ways and a lot of really challenging ways, like, to be observing every single day the pain of the world, like, constantly is
hmm,
extremely challenging, and also definitely what we, like, need to be seeing in
also
some
need,
ways.
yeah,
Yeah, because it's like, I mean, obviously, a lot of white people are going through a huge learning curve when we're really late to the party, and it's like
yeah,
good that it's happening, but also it's late. Like
yeah,
we gotta figure that out. But like, definitely, there was a period of time following like George Floyd and those protests where I was like, I'm not gonna post. It's not my place. Like I
yeah,
am not the voice to be speaking right now. I don't, like I'm gonna use this as a platform to be learning, right? And then like, because I this is like I feel sort of uncomfortable talking about this, but obviously I probably should. Like there's a point where my life isn't directly affected by it every day. And I don't experience those prejudices directly. And so like I guess my anger and whatever like maybe faded a little bit. And then I was like, I guess today I could post music or and there's sort of like
right,
this like it disappeared, which I don't want. And like that's so much of what's being
yeah,
talked about is like performative allyship. And I'm
hmm,
like, so I'm trying to my social media presence since everything that's been happening is like, obviously I'm seeing elements of myself that are performative and I don't want to be performative. And it's like very easy for me to share other people's stories.
hmm,
But like, what am I actually doing? And like, yes, I'm signing these petitions, but what is it actually doing? And so,
yeah,
and like part of my getting off social media, I was like, oh, okay, well, I just have followed all these people to learn more about what's going on in indigenous culture and in like the Black Lives Matter movement
yeah,
and all of these things. I just followed all these people and now I'm losing that educational train. So that was like a challenge. But then I'm like, now I'm required a little bit to put more energy into that work to
right,
like read the news and like do that work.
yeah.
So that I don't know. I found that I don't know what your perspective is on that. Um,
That
yeah.
makes sense though. That makes complete sense. I think as you're saying, it's not like, I follow these people, so I'm contributing or whatever. I'm learning just because
Hmm.
now you have to, go out of your way to do the research and
Right.
stuff like that. Yeah.
It's
I
yeah. Oh, sorry. Can keep
No, I
going.
was just gonna say that just in general, it can be good. It can be really good for
Yeah.
like communicating with people, seeing what other people,
Hmm.
are doing, but it's also really bad. And there's also, again, the whole handbook thing. There isn't one for
Hmm.
what you're supposed to be doing, and it seems like there's always a conflict of what's right,
Hmm. Yeah.
which is challenging.
There's something. I don't know if you know Bo Burnham at all.
Yes, I love Bo Burnham.
Yes, me too. I really seek out his interviews, like on podcasts and stuff. I think he's a
Mm,
really good interviewee. But something he said was that well, no one is taking time into what they're like. No one is putting time into what they're contributing. Before where it'd be like you have to write a book or like make
right.
a record or like
Yeah.
if you wanted to contribute culturally, it was like a lot of time and effort and probably some money and there was like an investment.
And you're not
And
gonna waste
now,
that, you're
yeah,
gonna make sure it's yeah,
exactly. And
for
so
sure.
now that you can just post, like I do this a lot where I'll just post, oh, I wrote this verse today, and I'll like post a song that I wrote today, which I think is interesting in some ways, but also the energy that like it's not the same level of commitment to an idea and
Mhm.
there's not the same work. Like we're not using our brains as much to be contributing members of society. We're just like
Yeah.
throwing everything we've ever known
It's
at the
almost
wall.
like a lack of quality, right? Like it's
Hmm.
in a way because you're not again putting that time and effort into it. Yeah, which I agree is why people can post so much and do so much,
Hmm.
but the quality of it is not, you
Hmm.
know.
And
eh,
yeah, not to say people aren't putting effort into their posts.
No,
Like
no, 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 for sure.
obviously lots of people do.
Yeah.
But
But
you
it's easy
know,
to not have to,
yeah.
and then it can kind of, yeah, it can not clutter, but you know what I mean? Like there's all these other things that aren't, you know, I don't know, like people haven't fully, like you said, put
Mhm.
time and effort into things. Not that you always have to, but yeah, I totally know what
Yeah.
you mean.
And
Yeah.
depending on what you think the tool is for, but, like, if you imagine if everyone could only share once every 10 days, right? Like if there was a rule put on
Yeah.
social media, everyone can only share every 10 days. Like I just can only imagine that the
Oh, it
quality of
would go
every
way
post
up.
and people will they'll be more discerning about what they're posting.
Yes.
Like, it would be a very interesting thing to see.
Yeah.
Um yeah, and but maybe it is just like this public journaling exercise. Like we're all just
That's
publicly
true.
journaling our lives and it doesn't have to be quality. And, I
Yeah.
definitely will scroll back through my social media as a way of reminding myself where I've been coming from.
Yeah.
I am very happy to be off it, honestly. It was quite fraught. But
What was the main reason you got off it? If there's something you can share
um
about that.
uh a couple of reasons, like mainly I was just going through like a very sad period of my life and
Yeah.
like mindlessly scrolling was my way of not confronting that
Oh,
sadness.
okay. Yeah.
um and I was just like so tired of that I needed to get rid of it, sit
Just
with
get
my
rid of it.
sadness
Yeah.
and like work through it, instead of distracting myself from
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
Um but I have a list on my wall of like things that serve me, things that don't serve me. I
Yep.
already know what
Yep.
doesn't serve me. I know social media doesn't serve me. Like I could just I
Have you felt better since you've been off it? Like,
oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, of course it's so addictive. The I think the best part is being able to do a day without thinking about everything as an opportunity
yeah.
for sharing. And I do like there'll be like a nice sunset and I'll be like, "Oh, I wish I could." And then I'm like, "Look at the sunset in front of me.
Yeah.
Like it's
Enjoy the
right
sunset.
there."
Be in the moment with the sunset. Yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
agree, and I think everybody is. I'm guilty of that. Like when I'm doing something, especially because I
Mhm.
like to make production type things. So I'm like, okay, this is
Yeah.
happening. How could I capture this to make it entertaining for somebody? I'm like, listen, I'm
Right.
here. Why don't I just enjoy the experience like the sunset? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I felt the same way. Like I got off it because I was spending ridiculous amounts of time on my phone,
Yeah.
like 8 hours a day. My
Mhm.
screen time was, and I was like,
Mhm.
doing what? What on
Right.
earth? And I've never thought of being someone that is on my phone very much. And I was
Right.
like I was like, no, this is ridiculous amount of time. And all of it was like Instagram
Mhm.
and things. And I was like, I don't need this because I'm not getting any benefit out of it. Like,
Probably the
I
opposite.
yeah, the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And the same thing, it's not like it's making me feel good. I'm seeing what people are doing, but I can also do that by having a conversation, calling somebody up. So
Mhm.
I got rid of it, got rid of all of it. And even like YouTube and Netflix, like
Oh, okay.
everything, got rid of all
Yeah.
of it.
No Netflix. Did you
I've
say
been
Netflix?
using Netflix, but not on my phone. Like I
Oh,
just
you just took it off your
so
phone. Right, right, right.
took it all off my phone, and
Me being like shocked, like you're not on
I know. Are you
Netflix.
serious?
But I
But
mean, Netflix is another like dark hole that
yeah, it's a
yeah,
different thing.
of trash, like
I know.
trash television. Anyway.
Um, but I was worried, not worried, but like, you have that thing, it's an addictive thing, right? Like we're all
Mhm.
addicted to it because I haven't watched the show, but I'm assuming that's
Oh,
what it talks about, right?
oh yeah.
Um, because it's designed that way. But anyway, I got rid of it. I was like, I'm worried that I'm gonna like miss it or whatever.
Mhm.
And after about like only a day, honestly, it was like a day,
Mhm.
and I was like, I didn't even think about it anymore. And I was because it wasn't there I didn't have that trigger to like look at it or click on it. Because I would realize
Mhm.
actually the day after, because I had Instagram, it's in a certain spot on
Yeah.
my phone. I'd open
Right.
my phone and I'd click on that app, and all of a sudden I got maps open, and I'm like, what am I doing?
Right.
Oh, I'm trying to click on Instagram. Like it's a habitual thing. And I
Yeah.
was like, I gotta break this. So it's been like 2 months.
Oh wow, that's
I
great.
download Instagram to check on things every once in a while. There's
Yeah.
actually if you didn't know, Facebook has Messenger.
Mhm.
Instagram has a thing called Threads, so it's just messages for Instagram. Um,
That's game changing.
yeah, so I still can keep in touch with people if they send me stuff or whatever. I can
Wow.
still see it, but I'm not actually on the app. Just
Right.
interesting little bit of information. But
That's very helpful.
I downloaded Facebook and Instagram for like 2 days. I was like, okay, it's been a while. Let's put it back on. And all of a sudden, right away, I was
Immediate.
like on there looking at it, and I was like, I don't want this. So I
Mhm.
was keeping it off. The one, like you said, the challenging thing is like trying to see what everybody's up to. So I do go on it every once
Yeah.
in a while. I'll go on my computer or something, but I give myself
Mhm.
time limits. But
Yeah.
I've found there's so much more time for genuine things. that I
Oh, I
want to be
know.
doing. You know, I mean, I'm reading,
Oh, great.
I'm, whatever. I'm doing other things, and it's things that I feel are more purposeful to me.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean it's for everybody, but
No, I think that's great. I think for me the big thing is like I have to deactivate. Like the count has to disappear because what I find addictive is the promise of some outreach. Like the
mm,
promise that oh somebody posted something I want to see or somebody messaged me. You know what I mean? So if no one
right.
can reach me, no one can like my post, no one can say
You
anything
don't
to
have to worry
me
about it.
that I don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely have to figure out something for like from a business perspective because obviously I'm going to be using social media to
Right.
promote myself as a musician.
Yeah.
So, but that's like a down the line situation.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you what you're reading.
What I'm reading at the moment,
Mm.
Sleep Smarter by Sean Stevenson.
Oh, yes.
Um, yeah, I just finished, what's it called? There's no plan B for your A game.
Oh, ooh.
Yeah, good book. A good book.
So you're nonfiction reader. That
Yeah,
is also
yeah.
me.
It's
I
all
can't
it's
not
all
read a
like
fiction book.
big self-help guy.
Yeah, no, I'm the exact same. I have here I have The War of Art. I don't know if
Oh
you've
yeah.
read that.
No, I
I'm
haven't.
just starting in it. Break through the blocks and win your inner creative battles.
It's great. Yeah, you can whatever. Read whatever you want, anybody, but the point is social and the same thing I want to say with social media because we're talking about this. I'm not trying to tell people they have to delete it or get rid of your account or whatever.
I
You
want
can
to
use
just
it.
tell people they have to. I just want
I
to tell
wanna.
people.
I mean, I do too, but I don't want to force anybody to do anything. Try it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. At least try it
If we
because
all did it, then we would come up with something better to like
that's
be
true.
connected. You
Yeah,
know,
that's
let's all just
true.
do it together. Let's be in on something together.
Yeah. Um.
It's
Oh,
impossible.
crazy stuff. Um. Yeah. I'm glad we could chat about that because I haven't really. I've said that to people and they're like, "Why are you not? Why are you not on it?" Because it's just such a big part of what we do, right?
Yeah, it
But I was
is.
like, have you heard less of me? Like less
Yeah,
from me? Are you like missing me? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, then what's the like? Why does it matter? You
for
know,
sure. I
like
was gonna ask you, like, is your do you have replacement behaviors? Like, I find I'm texting people every day and calling people. Like, I wouldn't text people before, but now I'm like reaching out. I don't know. What are your?
I've made that. I don't know if it's related to that, but I've made it an effort because of how I've been feeling, and I'm separated kind of from everybody.
Mhm.
Out there. I'm in a different place right now. I've been making it like it sounds. My friend was making fun of me, but I like schedule phone calls with
No,
people. So like I've got like three
amazing,
or four calls with friends next
amazing.
week.
You know what that is?
Uh,
That's maintaining adult friendships. Like that is what that shit is.
yeah, and
I
it's so
I
it's
love
so
it.
necessary. And maybe that's a I mean, maybe that's a product of that because I'm not seeing people because you kind of feel like you're interacting with people if you're just scrolling through, you see
Mhm.
their face. But yeah, I mean, that's one thing I've done, and it's so much better because you can have a conversation with somebody, and actually
Yeah.
see what's up or
When
whatever,
you
even if
don't
it's like
all
6
go to
minutes.
the same elementary school and that's not where your friends are, you have
Yeah,
to like put the effort in. I have one
that
friend and we like will hang out once every month or whatever and we like plan a walk. Like it's just so adult and it just works. Like it makes sense to actually put those things in your
I
calendar.
think it's important.
Yeah.
You gotta maintain like friendships like that. Or
Mhm.
here's something. So
Yes.
you probably heard this, but I think it's really interesting. There's somebody's talking about I don't know if they call them intentional friends, I believe, but they said most of the time, on average, elementary school, high school, whatever, even university, your friends are based on your geographical location, so where you
Mhm.
are, even at work, right? So if you got
Mhm.
friends, it's because you're in the same place. But how often do we intentionally seek out people that we want to be with? So it's like,
Mhm.
listen, I'm interested in, which we will talk about. We should talk about right away, like meditation. So
Mhm.
it doesn't mean we go to a music school, so it doesn't mean everybody's interested in that. Music friends, talking to people about music, blah blah blah, great. But I want maybe people more in this category, and let's
Mhm.
seek it out. Which is what part of this is. You got to actually like seek out the people you want to talk to, hang out with.
Mhm. I feel like we do that for our like romantic relationships pretty well. Like
Yes,
and people talk a lot about, write a list of the things you want in a partner or like,
but not for
you wouldn't
friendships though.
no, which is just bizarre because friendships like a lot of the time, unless you're in like a great long-term relationship, are like so much more
Yeah.
valuable and will like be there for
Yep.
your whole life. And of course you should be like maintaining those things. I don't know. I think a friend Holly and we discuss a lot how people undervalue a friendship as like an important relationship in a life.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, yeah. And having, you know, I think another thing I'm learning about growing up is having the wherewithal to say, this person doesn't serve me in my life and I can let go of
Okay,
them.
here we go. This is I just had a conversation with somebody about this too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like,
Yep.
it's not hurting anybody. They don't need me. Like, this person,
Mhm.
like, whatever. And like letting go of those I think there's a lot of pressure to like be like chummy with everyone, but it just doesn't, you can be kind, but you don't have to maintain friendships with everybody.
What I don't like, this is about social media, is that people always say, cut out the toxic people in your life, which
Right.
I understand where it's coming from. Completely agree. I don't like that
Right.
term. I don't know if you do.
No, because
I
it's
really don't,
putting
because I'm
them.
like, let's say me and you, we're friends, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? Savannah's not really providing me with things I feel like I need in my life right now. Gonna kind of
Right.
cut off that connection, but going just like, nah, like I'm not talking to you anymore.
For
That's
sure.
it. I'm like, that's a little, let's approach it with some love. Like,
Yeah, and just because I don't serve you as a friend doesn't mean I'm toxic. Like, you know what I
yes,
mean?
yes,
I'm fine.
yes.
You're
It's just,
fine.
and
We
you
don't need to be
grow,
friends. Yeah.
outgrow relationships,
Yeah.
friendships, but I think the idea should not be a negative thing. It's like,
No.
it should be more of a positive thing. Like we're both, kind of growing apart from each other or whatever. At least that
Mhm.
I'm feeling like, and I think everybody has that in their lives. We feel obligated to
Mhm.
stay with friends. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like you wouldn't stay with a romantic partner if they weren't making you feel the way you wanted,
Mhm.
or yeah.
Yeah,
We definitely undervalue friendships for sure.
it's sort of a nice, like, there's all these little weird silver linings of COVID, but like you just are deciding who to stay connected with more actively, like
Like who has a
who am I going to phone call,
yeah,
And
influence
not,
on your life.
if anyone is listening that I haven't phone called, it's not because I don't love you, but like it's, there are people that, you need to talk to more. And then there are people that you can see every 4 years and you're casual
Yeah,
friends. And you know what I
yeah,
mean? Not every relationship is the same.
for sure.
Anyway, you were going to ask me about meditation, or we were going
I
to talk
was.
about
Let's
meditation.
get into meditation. I was gonna say we're way past it now, which doesn't matter. But you were talking about how you were kind of dealing with insecurity and all that
Hmm.
stuff. Did that was you're a pretty spiritual person? I would probably say so, but I want to
Yes.
yeah. Um, has that had a role in any of that getting you to like where you are?
A hat of roll.
Has it had a role? Sorry,
Oh, hat of roll. I thought you were saying, are you a hat of roll? I was like, ooh, fun phrase.
no.
Um, oh, I'm gonna just go ahead and say 100% responsible for my
Wow,
growth. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, because it comes into every interaction. Like the things that I learned through my, I don't know, like spiritual study, I guess I would call it.
Yeah.
Um, they are like these like phrases and these like ideas that I like live my life by. So I would
Wow.
say, yeah, there's so much of it. Just like as a little background, I grew up in church, going to Presbyterian church. My uncle is a minister,
Yeah.
and then had a whole thing of like, uh, oh, I don't agree with this language. Like I don't like this language.
Mm,
I don't like how it excludes me as a woman or
right.
whatever. And then stepping back, and there's a guy whose name is Richard Rohr. He's a priest of some kind, but he talks
Yep.
about every person to have a functional spiritual life has to go through a deconstruction of what they were taught, and
Yep.
then like this reconstruction process. So
Hmm.
yeah, that has been my last like 5 or 6 years. So that's where I'm at. What about you?
Yeah, I guess your background, my grandparents both very Christian.
Hmm.
We went to church when I was really young. Like, yeah, but it's always been around me, and I've always had this weird relationship with religion because I've only recently kind of got this understanding that religion and spirituality are two different things.
Hmm.
um because I was like, no, this is it, like you just read the stuff, and this is what Jesus was doing, and
Right.
whatever, and that's it's a very different thing, but like you said, it's the language of how
Hmm.
everybody's talking about the same thing. That's what I've
Yeah.
realized.
Oh my God.
Everybody's talking about
Yes.
the same thing. We're just talking about it in different ways, even like different religions, right?
Hmm. I would say that
So
like every love-based faith is talking about the
yes,
same
yeah, yeah, yeah,
thing.
for sure,
There
for
are
sure,
some more challenging
correct.
beliefs out there.
Scientology.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like I guess I'm more from the kind of quantum physics type realm,
Hmm.
um, and all of that stuff. But kind of really getting into that has made me just see life differently and approach things differently, and really feel like I have a sense of purpose. And um, this is what I found challenging, because people always talk about God. I always, and I think a lot of people have like especially as a kid, thinking of him as like an actual person,
Oh yeah.
right? Like a physical being,
Yeah. Clouds, beard.
and then people go like, God is you and me. I'm like, what are
Yeah.
you talking about? It's this man. Um,
Yeah.
but then starting to realize that what they're talking about, just kind of like a the universal consciousness or whatever
Mhm.
you wanna say, and then trying to put that into my brain is what I've been focusing on. But how is it? Well, what are you up to? First of all,
Yeah. I love like the idea of the word God to me is such has been such a big part of this journey because yeah, like the way God was sold to me, I was like, nope. Well, for a long time I was like, yeah. And then at some point I was like, nope. Um,
yeah.
but I'm starting to get some sunlight
Oh,
here.
it's nice. It's
Hope it's
good.
like, okay, great. But yeah, so like in this process of construction and deconstruction, I went from really hating that word because it stood for something that was so specific for me and like so
Hmm.
exclusive. Like I was like, there's
Right.
no,
Yeah.
to say that this God, this like Christian God is the God. I was like, no, 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 no. Um, and yeah, and also like no offense to anyone who believes these things.
No, yeah, not at
Obviously,
all.
I
We're
have
just
a,
having a open discussion about it.
I'm gonna just back up so I'm in the shade. But my caveat to all of this would be whatever you believe is true. So
Yes.
if you believe something and it works for you and it like makes you a more loving person, I support you and I think it's actually true for you because everything else, like reality is constructed. And so construct yourself a belief and go for it.
Oh, that's another day. That's right.
Yeah. um and also like the question of what happens after you die, it's like honestly whatever you believe is true because you live your life and then you die and then it doesn't matter because I mean that maybe is offensive to some people, I don't know, but it's like if you go your whole life believing some X will happen after you die, who's to say that's not going to happen? I don't know.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
anyway, so for me, yeah, I didn't like the word God, and then did all this work and was like, yeah, like the universal consciousness, this like energies, like orb, like the one energy
Right.
collective, whatever. I had all these different versions of that word.
Hmm.
Um, and now I wouldn't choose. I write music with a lot of like sort of religious like tone,
Yeah.
just like things that are God related.
Hmm.
Um, and what it just took a while for me to like be okay with that word again. Like I came back to that word because I realized, oh, now if I take lessons that were given to me through the lens of the work I've done to reconstruct this idea of
Yeah.
God, I'm like, oh, this lesson, God is love. And I'm like, oh, yes, the universal consciousness is love. Like this makes sense to
Yes.
me. So it
Yeah.
was just yeah, that I mean that's the language is such a big part of it. I wrote this poem about I yeah, it was about a bunch of different things, but the last sort of stanza that I like think about a lot as a reminder to me is language is a hammer, inadequate enough to shatter every god they've tried to sell me up in heaven, down in hell. And in the end, when it's all broken, it's the pieces that will matter. And I'll plant them in my garden to grow something that will feed me.
Oh my God. Oh
So,
my.
so
Wow.
thank you. I mean, not my thoughts, just whatever, putting them on paper.
Yeah.
But this idea of like, sell me whatever you want, give me everything, like I'm going to take whatever I can,
Hmm.
and then I'm going to find the pieces that like make me a better person, make me more loving, whatever, and
Yeah.
use them to grow some like hybrid of
Yeah.
yeah, of spiritual. Oh
That's
my god, I have so much could say about this. I could go on and on, but
you can keep
back
talking. We're
well
here.
I guess like if I were to summarize what I think like the point of it all is.
Yeah.
um was talking to my friend over a campfire the other night and I like said this and I caught myself saying it. I was like, oh, that's it. That's what I think in this moment. It'll change like
Yeah.
2 months from now. But I think the human body acts as like a transducer, music word,
Hmm.
for energy. So,
Yeah.
there's energy coming in, there's energy going out, and I feel like my role is to take the energy that's coming in and turn it into a different kind of energy, hopefully a more positive energy
Right.
to send it back out. And then ultimately, when I leave the earth, leaving my energy cleaner than I found it, leaving it a little bit more loving.
Mm.
Because obviously human history is fraught and
Yeah.
very dark. And so there's all this handed down trauma, genetic trauma. And I think we're the generation that has, obviously the ability to work on this kind of stuff and the time and resources to think about spirituality is like a huge privilege.
Right.
Not everyone has it. Like if your basic needs are met, you're not going to sit around talking about
Yes, for
how your
sure.
inner, whatever. But yeah, I think we have the ability and maybe resources to start that healing process, hopefully.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I really
yeah.
like the term, like
That's
you just saying, you're kind of in a way, like, yeah, you're taking in things and cleaning it up, right? And then putting it back out, and I like how you said leaving this current state, um, with everything cleaner than you
mhm.
found it.
It's like
Um,
the classic camping rule, like leave, to take only pictures, leave only for prints. Like leave your campsite cleaner than you found it.
there you go.
That's what that is.
Campsite is just your life.
Yeah. And also when you ask about insecurity, right? Like if I'm looking at my body as this transducer for energy, it's such a miracle. It's such a gift that I have this container to like pass energy through, and it makes me so much more able to love myself instead of looking at
Wow.
myself as Savannah. I'm Savannah. This is my identity and this is my body and this is how I look, and you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it just takes the ego out of it. And also, not to say that I'm a perfect transducer. I often will put out energy that I don't intend to put out. And it's
for
like
sure.
the process of learning how to do this work is like the reason I'm curious to learn this work is because I want to be a good transducer.
Right. Yeah. We were just talking about. I was chatting with Treek. We were talking about, even if you do think, like, say something like that you didn't mean, or it was more of a
Mhm.
negative thing. Everything, he goes, what his phrase was, you made a dent. Period. Like you did
Yeah.
something. It's gonna affect somebody else in a good way, a bad way, whatever. But it's gonna affect. You still are having an impact. So it obviously you want to try to make it in the good way, or
Mhm.
in being, like you want. But if you don't, it's still okay and beneficial, assuming
Mhm.
you're not just making that your life purpose. But
For sure. And to a degree, there's room to correct. Like,
yeah,
if I say something I don't intend to say to someone, and then immediately I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I'm projecting because I'm having this kind of bad day. You know what I mean? Like, there's a way to do
hmm,
that. And I'm hoping culturally we're shifting to allowing for mistakes and allowing for, we're not in that space at all right now, but it'd be great if we could, like, I mean, another whole thing of like how we treat people who do things that are wrong,
yeah,
put them in a box, lock them up, put them away. Like that, to me, that whole structure is completely broken. Not just to me,
yeah,
to a lot of people, but you know, when we can't allow people to be humans and do things that are wrong, it doesn't allow for like healing, and it also puts a lot of pressure on yourself if you're not allowing of other people.
yeah.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, I have like three more things I would love to say if
No,
you don't
go.
mind.
Yeah, I say we're here. Just go talk.
Okay, great. So, this is like, I don't know if I can mention another pod on your pod,
Yeah.
but the Duncan Trussell Family Hour. uh, anyway, there's an episode with Russell Brand, so I'm a big Russell Brand fan. I don't know if he has a podcast. It's hard. It's hard being a student of like spiritual teaching because you kind of look at these
Yep.
teachers and you're like, what gives them like, do
Yes.
I really want to put this person up on a pedestal? Like, who's to say they're not like just a cult leader in the making,
Right.
right? But I do like what he says, and um this podcast episode, he sort of said a couple things that really hit me in a big way.
Hmm.
So these are not my things, but I'd like to pass them forward because
Yeah.
they're really good. So the first one was, um, we was talking about aliens, and he said if aliens came to Earth, they would come as humans because they would come like looking like humans because they're more advanced and they know that that's the best way to communicate with us.
Right.
Which I thought was so cool, just as like a fun thing because we're so certain that like we're the most advanced
Yeah.
species,
Nope.
and
I wouldn't say.
or just yeah, like the idea that aliens will come in this like weird the way movies
Right.
portray. But it's
Yeah.
like, of course, anything in the universe that has the ability to reach us uh, would probably be more loving. They've probably gotten past this point that we're at right now, where we're all like very hateful and we're fighting,
Yeah.
and Anyway, that's one small thing that's not really about
That's cool
spirituality, but
though.
I liked it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the spiritual thing that I loved, the question of, are humans inherently good? Are they inherently evil? That comes up a lot. I feel like people talk about that.
Yeah.
And Russell Brand gave these examples of text, an illustration of William Blake's, I forget, I think that's it. And it's, images of God saying to Job, being like, here is the Leviathan. I made it just as I made you. And then it's like this depiction of this disgusting monster, whatever. And then Job's like, oh, that's the same thing as me. And then it's like, here is the megalodon or whatever. He's like all these monsters throughout history. And it's this book showing these illustrations. And what Russell took from that is that, you know, God isn't good or evil. God is indifferent. Whatever the life force is that created us is indifferent. And so it is our job to create, the words he uses are, it's our job to create the glory of God here on earth, because if we don't, it doesn't exist. And so that's like, right? Like if God is just indifferent, God created good, God created evil, like all of these things, right? And you know, you read, and I think it says in the Bible, like all things are created under God, right?
Right.
And so it, in terms of like, as someone who every day is like, what am I supposed to be doing? Why am I here? Like, what is the point? And it's like, oh, if I can create this goodness, like the goodness of the one energy, like it's my job to create that, because without me, it doesn't exist. And our consciousness like gives us the rare opportunity to do that. Yeah,
make a choice for sure.
That's my little, that was like a couple weeks ago, so it's still fresh, and I was so excited about it.
No, that's amazing. That's what I was saying. Like people say, you know, you are God in that sense, right? Like you have to create whatever we're calling it God in this instance, but whatever you want to call it.
And it's nice to allow for like both sides of dark and light inside yourself. Like I don't think it's too much pressure to be only light.
Yeah, you can be human.
Yeah.
I'm good and bad. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there for today. We could talk. I mean, you and I. This could be a Joe Rogan podcast. It'd be like 8 hours.
For real.
Thank you for hopping on here, though.
Yes, thank you so much.
And
very excited.
We will we'll chat next week. If you're interested in more content like this, go check out our website at don'tsettleofficial.ca. We're dedicated to providing resources, information, and content designed to assist you on your journey of personal growth, and most of all, to help you live life to the fullest. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll chat with you next time.